Okay, I'm back. I'm back. I'm a dominating cat. I want my kitty food. Yes. Well, I catanate you. Yes. No. Yes, back with some more. Ooh, a little shake there. More ranting. I'm going back to bed because I'm retired and I'm relaxing. Oh dear. Okay, back with. So, for those who can't understand English, maybe you should quickly go to a language school and, turn on the translator, the universal translator. Okay, this is how politicians should do their, they should lay down and relax, and then, yeah, Sigmund Freud, tell me your problem. um, okay, why I think the speaker layout for all this, whether it's a dub stage to a home, cinema to, well, because usually it translates, kind of, so they say. Yeah, and if you think George Lucas out there, well, you haven't got the ultimate bloody screening room on the planet. I mean, think about it. He's got no imagination anymore, that guy. Doesn't even use below surround. Well, even if it's matrix below surround. Well, you'd think if George Lucas, don't you think he would come out and invent a speaker? Oh, sorry, not a speaker, a encoding, decoding, delivery sound format, because that's what it comes down to on a dub stage with a mixing console. And then you got all these mixers out there and hot shots in Hollywood bragging in these short videos. I've seen so many of that over the bloody decades now. Sound Deluxe bragging how many sound effects they got going for We Were Soldiers. We got literally thousands of soundtracks playing simultaneously. Yeah, but can you hear all it? Can you hear all of it? Mostly, you hear little pieces of it. You ain't going to hear all of it because you got, at the end of the day, this frequency audio masking. I've done sound mixing myself at college. That was decades ago. But then I thought, I don't want to pursue it. I know how the tracks now are laid out on a computer and how you manipulate it and that. And I did something that was very simple decades ago, very boring and simple. But was I pleased with it? Not entirely. I was, yeah, that, okay, I could do that with it. But I wasn't interested in music. So I decided not to pursue. I'd rather listen. But I haven't heard anything yet to where I can literally pinch myself and think, wow, or run out, grab my umbrella and think, open, wow, that's the best sound effect for rain that I've heard yet. Of course, if you open an umbrella indoors, it's bad luck. The speaker layout is outdated. It goes way back to maybe Fantasia 1940. The speaker layout hasn't even evolved that much. They didn't have, well, Disney Fantasia didn't have much imagination even for below surround. Probably not even on the ceiling because they just used the typically behind the screen and around the walls, and that's all they used. You go up to, well, 1969 downtown, the Cinerama screen. They had they had overhead speakers in the ceiling for their 70mm Cinerama. There's probably very few cinemas in the UK at the time that might have used, because obviously it's by someone that had an idea and thinking, let's put the speakers in the ceiling and see how that works. And everyone's probably thinking, you know? Anyway, a few more decades forward, I get a projection at local UCI. Tower Park is now closed down officially. Um, yeah, whether it opens up again with view, I don't really particularly care because I don't go to cinemas anymore. I'm done through going to cinemas and the woke rubbish movies. Um, I'd probably have a Dolby Atmos down there if it's view. Doubtful. Anyway, anyway, yeah, I'll come back to that later. I'll rant about that again, and yeah, just to for those that you think blah blah blah. Anyway, so the speaker layout hasn't really changed that much, but UCI had overhead speakers, and that was 1989, or it could have been 1988 because the other site along the south coast. Someone else told me, yeah, this site also has got it, and they mentioned in a video in a comments many years ago. This is going almost probably getting close to 10 years now. Um, that it was an experimental. So it was, because it's usually heard of or unnoticed. Well, you don't really notice it because speakers are usually for surround layout are laid out on the side wall and back wall. That's typical, not just the side walls like some stupid home theater with some stupid Trinov. And if you program a Trinov or a Storm Audio correctly with the layout, so if you want to play 5.1 or Dolby Stereo, not that a Trinov can do proper Dolby Stereo because it unless you have a proper decoder. Any case, the layout should be that it wraps around and then it's sort of like you pinch yourself thinking, wow, I'm getting a flashback because that's the same similar signature sound that I heard in the cinema. Only you're hearing it in a small room. It doesn't really matter particularly in any case. So yeah, speakers on the ceiling, UCI. Yeah, it wasn't publicized. It wasn't bragging. Come to new UCI site. We're using experimental overhead. It wasn't marketed like it was just brand new cinema, blah blah blah, with Dolby SR, state of the art and such. Um, that was noise. I think personally, the best sound format that Dolby Labs have ever invented is A Type and SR. Atmos is dreadful from day one on their drawing board. And then because all they're doing is they're not copycatting. They've already tried it with their Sonic Hole overhead sound 2002. Mel Gibson, the Wallace Wassett director, We Were Soldiers, only for one auditorium cinema in the USA. I don't even know which cinema that is unless I go asking around to find out. But there's no diagrams you can find anymore on the internet. You can't find any more diagrams that showed an artist illustration. I think I got one on a floppy disk that I copied many years ago. Um, because I think Dolby laboratories have been out there to suppress information. It's just like how the internet works, um, because they just want to keep people brainwashed with Dolby Atmos like sheep, meh, to keep you relevantly sheepish. And I would find that personally insulting if that's what Dolby Labs are really trying to do. Because seriously, I've looked high and low using all the keywords, and I can't even. All I can find is a little text of chit chat, but I can't find the actual. Oh, what do you call it? They were like um, photocopies of a newspaper or articles from something that were, but yeah, unless they're hidden in some of the dark internet sort of thing somewhere. But I've got them on PDF. Oh, sorry, I've got them on floppy disk drives. So I saved the whole thing, um, as well as some of the diagrams they draw, the artist's illustration for how the overhead speaker layout should look. And it's complete opposite to what Dolby Atmos is. It's a cluster on the ceiling, a real cluster. So that's just so that the mono matrix signal that would be outputted or encoded and then outputted will play over a hole, so you won't hear in the way of, say, a hotspot, like this stupid Aura 3D voice of God, like you hear it right above you, yeah, and anyone else in the auditorium that's in front or behind would hear it up there, but in front of them on the ceiling, they would hear it coming from a. But if God was up there, yeah, don't you think he would be up there and his voice kind of then started to then move? Because if you were to think about it, if you were to put a rail track on a ceiling that can be moved horizontally, that can slide along on motors with a speaker, so you can move it, yeah, and then also move that speaker along the rail track as well, so it's going that way, and then you can move the track that way. You could have pink noise playing and then just remotely start moving it, and then you just start hearing the movement of pink noise, but it's just pink noise, a static sound, unless you, of course, then you have it with multiple, then you put multiple of speakers on the ceiling on a rail track that could be remotely moved, and then you start playing the pink noise, the static pink noise, and then moving it slowly, those speakers slowly moving. You would hear this. It wouldn't be just a. It'll be a. Or like. It would have this swashy movement. That's just simple physics 101. 101. Not, there's no 1 O. There's no O in bloody numbers. It's 101 physics, 101. Fuck's sakes. I don't know why they say, oh, that bloody fucking confuses me. You program that into a computer and the computer's got to run home completely confused because it's the wrong sort of symbol to put into a computer. I mean, really. That would pretty sound wow. I mean, I've got more bloody ideas than probably most, and yet everyone is just too scared to even mention all this because what are you afraid of your credibility or some bullshit? You don't want to challenge Dolby Labs. Dolby Labs are just nothing more than money grabbers to me now. I mean, I've heard so many crappy, lousy Atmos mixes that really do belong in cat litter, immersed in it, literally, or actually submersed within the cat litter. Though my cat wouldn't really give a damn, I don't give a damn. I mean, 14 years almost 14 years of Atmos, and what have dubbing stage mixers got out of it? Oh, a few Oscar wins, a few nominations, a few other award prizes. Yeah, but really, if I were a mixer, I would be just sick as a parrot with what technology given and thinking, I can't move sound around like all this bullshit free. You know, Dolby Labs saying you could have a helicopter and go along the bloody side. Oh, that's jumping. That helicopter sound is going from one speaker over to the next with a gap. It's leap. It's like leap frogging. Yeah, you hear the frog feet maybe against one surface, and then you hear that, and then you don't hear the rest of it because it's free falling through air, and then lands onto another, and then makes a sound, and it's just leapfrogging. Otherwise, speakers will literally be, but then that's the point. And the extreme expense doesn't matter if you use this. It doesn't matter whether you use the cheapest bloody brand of speakers that you could get your hands on, along with amplifiers as well, and the cheapest grade of speaker and cable and such. And then you're talking about mixing. You're not talking about mixing thousands of sounds. You're talking more than that. Than, well, actually, is what really is available in the outside atmosphere. Typically, we hear atmospheric sound, and atmospheric sound's always got this kind of movement. So 11, 12, maybe 1 o'clock at night. That sound that you usually hear is very distant. It's from a motorway or whatever. During daytime, it's a little different because the where the roads are located and the traffic flow on the road, and we hear these sounds because there's vehicles that are pushing air, and they somehow make these sounds. And when you listen to it, do we hear it down at this level? No, actually, we kind of perceive it a little bit up because that's how it is. We don't, unless it's a vehicle that's coming nearby, and then you hear it more or less down at this angle, not up there where the usually typical the speaker layout is on a cinema or dub stage, and then the HF horns, you hear the direction of it, and you think, but the vehicle's down there. Why's the bloody sound up there? Doesn't make sense. That's why the speaker layout is outdated, particularly behind the screen. It's outdated. Because then if you've got more speaker layout, then you've got more ways to put that. But then, fucking hell, is this it? Is this how it is now? How it is? We've come to this point that I like to get outdoors, really. Oh, I feel like for my health it gets a little, well, it won't get any better because I'm locked. I'm completely locked in heart fibrillation, um, and low blood circulation, so I can't risk too much. But yeah, if I can get out of it, and maybe in the spring, I'll see if it's doable. If it ain't doable, then I got to ground myself. Never like used to hear that, but from your parents, you're grounded, or you're not going play with out with your friends outside because you've been naughty. Um, it's like a bloody curse, and I either play a stupid game and then I'll win a stupid prize, and I end up in hospital again. And they say, "Yeah, you're back here again." And nothing's changed, and they check, probably I haven't recently checked my sugar level, so they check my sugar level and they notice it's right a little bit high or something, and then they stick you on a drip, keep you in overnight, and then let you out the next day. Or if my blood pressure were high, or such, um, they'll use maybe a something to lower it, but it will go back up again. You just got to relax. That's it. Relax. Um, so yeah, the speaker layout is completely useless. And they, like say, if you have the cheapest sort of speaker that you can get on the market from wherever, yeah, you got to put these speakers literally side by side by side by side by side, so they got independent inputs. So that you got stereo, 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 and so on, etc. And then it can all then have movement. So if there's atmospheric sounds that this would be a it's like that spear they got in Las Vegas. Although that spear, bloody hell, sounds absolutely awful. I don't have to go there to hear it. I can hear it in the videos. You can hear the echo. It sounds how many billions? My goodness! And all they got is a glorified video screen wall with a bloody echo chamber. Um, yeah, and you look at the spear and you think it looks a little bit familiar. Where have I seen something like that before? Oh yeah, in those videos and pictures of Omnimax, IMAX, Omnimax. Yeah, it's the same similar thing. Only probably an Omnimax theater has probably got less echo. Um, and less speakers, of course. But mostly they're just using all these speakers of what they got in this, sphere. Uh, I'm not sure if it's, they say they could direct sound from this and that. So obviously it's a multi. So maybe if it had that sort of system layout. Not that I would say let's have a video screen wall in the home. Um, there's something that I still don't like about those video screen walls. It's not the expense. It's the bulkiness of the whole bloody thing. You got that stupid video on YouTube where someone's in a shed putting together some bloody LED video screen wall, and I can sort of like think, oh god, my eyes are absolutely rolling. As an ex-projectionist, my eyes are absolutely rolling. Thinking the whole weight of the whole bulk of that system is going to weigh a whole lot more than a typical video projector. And it's a lot more convenient with a video projector because, yeah, if a panel goes wrong on one of those things, you've got to replace it. Um, and there's a few other things that I just don't like about it. You can't put speakers behind it, so you're not going to get any of that. You just diminished your home theater's bragging ability for its sound behind the screen. You just completely diminished it for the sake of a stupid video screen wall because it's back to square one again. Where do you put the center channel? Where do you put the left and right speaker? What? Bounce the sound off it? Reflect it? What a load of bullshit. Because you're only going to get certain amount of frequency sound that's going to reflect. You won't get bass sound reflecting on it. Oh yeah, you could put a microphone up there and put a microphone in other positions and then see what sort of frequencies reflecting. Um, you'd hear the bass, obvious, but it would be omnidirectionally, and it just it won't be in the same proportion to how it's been traditionally been done for decades. It'll just be out of place. A video screen wall belongs in the cat litter box, unfortunately. Um, And it's only people with ego because it's they're rich people like, that youth man on and bloody Shed Guy, oh, and Shane Lee and all these other shills on YouTube. Oh my goodness. You know, you know who you are. Um, yeah, I shouldn't point. Only Gene DeSella starts waving his finger around and point. You shouldn't point your finger, Gene DeSella. It's rude when you point your finger at YouTube videos. Um, wave your arms around, you get it, but don't point the finger at the camera. That's rude. I might bite. Well, my cat might see it and he might think, "Oh, look," because you wave your finger around in front of the cat. They try to bite. They don't like it. Um, yeah, it's just all these rich people. They want things, numbers that are high. To Americans, it's the numbers. They got to be high. The numbers have got to be high. Their dollar looks high. The UK looks a little bit low, but it's still the same numbers. Just different. Whatever bullshit. It's still the same amount of figure numbers. If it were a rocket in the UK to go up to a space, it would be the same calculation formula to what it would be over in America or anywhere else. It would be the same formula. To escape the Earth's gravity pull at 7 miles per second per second. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of these like recent crappy Atmos mixes I hear, I don't hear proper atmospheric sound in the surrounds, and it's not equally balanced in the mix. I can see it on the level meters, and thinking, who the heck mixed this for crying out loud? And they release it like that? Oh no. It's no wonder most people with their home theaters, I can't hear my Atmos speakers. Actually, it's a little bit more than just putting speakers on the ceiling, sidewalls, etc., for some stupid end game home theatre. It's a little bit more than that. Because if you were to play pink noise on one sidewall speaker, hotspot on the sidewall, and play another on the overhead on a single speaker, typically there's one, two, 3, 4, 5, 6, or maybe 7, 8, whatever on the ceiling. They're just stereo, 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 two channel, two channel, two channel, two channel on the typical ceiling. Actually, mine's a little bit more than that. But if you were to play the pink noise and then start looking at it on the RTA and maybe get out of the seat and move around and walk around whilst listening to it and observing with the because it's really a balancing act of not just the level, the gain level, but it's just balancing out the frequency. But that's like you've got to analyze the the film mix, for the encode, decode, Atmos delivery. You got to analyze that on the RTA analyzer. Say analyze one speaker overhead, or you could do multiple through a multiple RTA system. So you got stereo, 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 etc. RTA. So you can monitor the actual frequency, because what we think we can hear mostly is being masked by, you get audio frequency masking effect. And so you only hear a little proportion of overhead. If you turn the levels down on the other speakers, yes, then you start to notice it a little bit. And then you start to then notice that the the levels don't seem very strong or dynamic on the sidewall surrounds because you've turned the gain level down. It's really quite a little bit more to it. One, you don't want some of the high or middle high frequencies to be too loud because then we listen, we observe something and think, I'm pretty familiar with that. I've heard something as similar in real life, but I've never once had to put my fingers in my ear or thinking turning the volume down, unless it's like a an ambulance, fire engine, or whatever coming down the road with a blaring siren, and then you put your fingers in your ears because you have those things output very high SPL level, and it might be your it might not be a good day, and it goes right past you and bam causes tinnitus. So you know, put your fingers in your ears. Um, because we want to kind of feel the bass, be whether it in the surrounds, the overhead, typically, or maybe a matrix below surround. We want to feel the bass because it gives some sort of emotion. Does it give emotion? Well, it gives a feel, so it's like, oh, yeah. So it's like having George Lucas with his hand underneath your ass and he's fondling your ass for 2 hours. Um, pervert. Um, so you want to have yeah. But the problem there is a lot of that bass maybe in the surrounds or the overhead. Very rare. You get some very lows in the overhead speakers down to infrasonic below 20 hertz. That is very rare. But you're not gonna feel much of it. You're gonna only hear a proportion of it, and the rest of it is going complete waste because a small speaker can only do so much low, and then you need it diverted elsewhere. But I don't know. It bothers me. What it would sound like punching through the air, a space shuttle moving through the air at almost what Mark 3, Mark 4. Um, yeah. Mm, yeah. I won't dwell on that movie too much. The movie is called Moonfall, with the overhead infrasonic low frequencies. hmm Um, I got to take my medication in a moment soon. Yeah. Hmm. So, yeah, Atmos is pretty boring. If you get a good stereo overhead, decent stereo overheads mixed, and not by some crappy, overrated Hollywood sound mixer, um, that's probably been mixing what 6 channel sound for too many decades, and so it's completely like they're clueless and not too sure how to do it, or I don't know what goes on dub stage, and I'm not sure if they're using some of the formulas um, developed many decades ago that seem logical. I think it was Walter Murch that came up with a concept of the sound is color, and the colors of the sound will be placed or mixed in specifics within the, the restraints of a 6 channel back then, and still is to this day, because occasionally 6 channel is still used. Um, Even 2 channel. Very rare, I suppose, you get mono now. And mono is probably less confusing, less distracting, I would say. Um, because with Atmos, when you got all these sounds in there, then I hear something and I'm thinking, crikey, that doesn't sound right, or doesn't sound like it should be sounding in that position. It's bullshitting me. And I don't like being bullshit. I'm very extreme biased until someone comes along and puts Dolby Labs completely out of commission with their Atmos. I'm waiting. But it's got to also be affordable because I'm sick and tired of all this greed. Atmos elite end game youth man bloody touring around home theatres. Oh, this is the best home theatre. Oh, this is the best home theatre I've ever been to. Oh, oh, what a load of bullshit just to try and get views on his channel. Seriously. And all the fun like just to generate money. Dear, oh dear. Despicable. Otherwise, that bloody JBL room that I bloody saw, oh my goodness me. It's got echo reflections all over that room. The speaker layout is absolutely appalling. Yeah. And all that just to get an NC rating of an NC5 with a room in a room within a room within a room. What? No windows? Does that guy ever go outdoors? He's got no windows. Oh my goodness, really? Yeah, so if you were to go, technically, if you were to go into that room, do you hear your blood pumping in your head? No, I doubt it. Because it's still got echo reflections around that room. So it's not like using thick wedges of fiberglass that are on the ceiling, sidewalls, and the floor below on a metal grill that you walk along, and you can't hear nothing. Nothing. You clap your hand, you just hear it in front of you. You don't hear it reflecting anywhere, coming back at you. It's completely absorbed, and the only thing you would hear is the blood pumping in your head. Actually, it's very easy. Just put earplugs in. Go into a and in a regular room, like a bedroom or so, you can hear it. You hear your pulse, the pulse. Um, you can't put your fingers in your ear. It's very difficult because your finger in your ear canal is going to slightly wobble a little bit, and then you would hear this slight wobble vibration. Put earplugs in, and then let the foam expand, and then they settle. They don't move. They're static. But you put a finger in your ear, it won't be still because it would have a slight movement, and then that slight movement will register to the eardrum, goes to the little cochlear, and then to your noodle, and then registers as a sound signal. Which, mind you, this is still pretty advanced than Dolby Atmos. Because if I could make a little rustling sound with an object, so it makes a rustling sound, and put an earplug in one ear, and then move it with the other side of my arm. So I put an earplug in this side, and then use this to and do that. I could hear the vibration going. It's called in head cavity sound. In any case, so I do it on the opposite side, and just move it slightly. I can hear the tiny variables in degrees in the sound, whether it's going that way or coming this way. I can hear the tiny degrees, and it's like, whoa, it's like the atom, you know. Um, yeah, but there's just no one is gonna, well, unless it's a stinking, filthy billionaire, is gonna put an audio system together. They probably have enough money to front to have a proper encoding system, but you got to have a layout to how this is going to be mixed and how sounds are going to pan. So if it's going to be a sound that moves, but still, it won't be the same as the real thing at the end of the day. Um, it could do something similar. There are ways to phantom eyes, phantomize. Yeah, it's like Fanta sound or phantomize it, phantomize the sound with. So if you have two speakers that are parallel, that's one on the floor, one on the ceiling, and they're in line. They're in the exact same, you know, alignment. And then you put a basic pink noise signal and then listen to it and then use a balance control and then start moving it up, and that balance control, you start hearing a shift, or if you use, I suppose, even with time delay, or maybe a variable phase control, you'd hear a shift, though the sound um, on the speakers will be well, you can filter the pink noise. Yeah, it's possible. You can filter it to be any sort of wide band or narrow band and customize that and then start manipulating it. You should get something, maybe say with a voice. So you want a voice talking and you hear it in between because the speaker's on the floor, the speaker's up there on the ceiling, and you're seated. So the phantom signal, you got, though, when you're seated, you'll be a little bit nearer to the floor level. And so, yeah, it's balancing the phantom signal. And if there was arrays of speakers on the ceiling and the floor, and you can then mix the sounds so they can move up and down or such, and side to side. Maybe get the kind of sort of similar, but it won't be the real thing at the end of the day. But you get something similar that would be a lot better than the bloody atmos that's totally around now, and anything else that's been around. Um, Maybe a fly or a bee buzzing around. Because typically, when you're going to hear it in a movie, it's going along the sidewall speakers and the overhead, or not yet. I don't think. I don't think I've unless they remix the from scratch, from ground up, and then probably use a trade off some of those overhead speakers and use it for discrete below surround mixing. But that's only not even the tip of the iceberg. It's got to be an array, and there just wouldn't be enough in that ink Dolby Atmos thing for it to do, because it's that Atmos decoder needs to be thrown into the cat litter and it needs to be reworked, restarted from scratch. Um, because if you make real sounds in a room, you think that's how we hear it. Right. Now we got to make it into an encoder, decoder. And it's got to be, oh gosh, will it be compatible with all the mix consoles on a dub stage? Mm. If some alterations could be made, then without throwing out a mix console that's a dub stage has already spent tens of tens of hundreds of grand on, and then they got to suddenly throw it out into the skip because it's no use anymore. Yeah. Then you could get the sound of a fly or a bee to kind of move around in the room and come sort of that would appear to come pretty near to a single or a few viewers, because the way the sound is going to come out from the speakers is artificial at the end of the day. The real thing is a total different thing of uh, acoustics and sound reflections, because it's an actual real object that's moving, a real thing that's a real insect that's moving around. Not that a fly usually goes around in circles around our head. Be a very unusual attitude fly, a fly with an attitude, unless it's a swarm of bees, and you don't want to be there because you know what the fuck's going to happen. You're going to end up in fucking hospital because you're going to get multiple of fucking stings. Yeah, so I'm very savvy than most fucking people on fucking YouTube with their home theaters. I'm sorry, but you lot out there with your atmos talking and all that, yeah, you're lame. You've been brainwashed by Dolby Labs. Sadly, brainwashed. Man, like sheep. You got no imagination. Imagination. And it's come from the greatest country on the planet. Greatest. Well, it didn't seem that way 5 days ago now, did it? It seems like the United States is a laughing stock. Anyway, enough of that. Yeah, you guys got no imagination. It's like Trinov. They come out with all this advanced blah blah, but still, their system's no damn good than anyone else's. Home theatre. It's like the domination of home theatre sort of thing. I'd rather bury that Trinov in cat litter, along with the Storm Audio and the JBL, along with Dolby Labs and Aura, and I don't know about the Limax, and I'd rather bury the lot in cat litter. They offer these channels and that, and it's like every AVR receiver that they come out with, Marantz, Denon, blah blah blah, every few years. Oh, they bump up the price a few more hundreds, greedy bastards. And you think you're going to get a great deal. You're just hearing hotspots of sound. Is that it? Crikey, I mean, I could, with the Storm processor, I could put multitude of stereo music playing. Actually, I could go tenfold if I want to. I could go tenfold. It just mean more amplifiers. Though I would look at the cost on that and get the cost cheap, and it's the sensitivity of the speaker, what distance we hear, blah blah blah. If you're in close proximities, you don't need a lot of kilowatt power, for crying out loud. Does a fly buzz around your room using fucking kilowatts of power? Does it output 150 fucking dB? Think about it. Oh dear. Oh. Yeah. A lot of dub stages have got to change. Dolby Labs have got to fucking change. They got Dolby Labs' outdated Atmos is 14, almost 14 years old. It's like stale bread that's been in a cupboard for 14 fucking years. It's People talk about Atmos like it came out 24 hours ago. Put a sock in it. I'm not saying Atmos is great. I'm saying Atmos is crap. It's Dolby crap moss with a lot of, yeah, you got crap out there that's going green with moss on top of it. Oh dear. And it doesn't stink much anymore because all that's gone into the atmosphere, blah, blah, blah. Oh, in any case, oh, for crying out loud. It's not even like a good piece of vintage cheese. It's stale, it's outdated. Along along with the outdated speaker layout that's from the 19 bloody 40s. I could go out and buy a ball of string, bundles on Amazon and make something, and yet it's cheap. But when it comes to other things, it's like, oh, crikey, if you could get all speakers to be the price of a ball of string, wow, I'm for that. Actually, when you get the string and you pluck it, it makes a vibration depending on the tension. Less tension, and it makes a lower frequency. More tighter, and it makes higher pitcher frequency sounds. Fucking hell. God. I suppose, yeah, if I want to do multiple stereo, that's piss easy. And one, it also downgrades the size of you got to downgrade the size of the speaker depending on where things are going to be located. And I suppose, if it's something that could be recognizable to, and this, someone's got to think and someone's got to talk. And then this is why you have people around a table, so many divisions. Some have got to think like, well, we got to put his idea into this. That's the commitment. And, it's like, well, the President Kennedy saying, I propose that we land a man on the moon before the end of the decade. So he's given NASA, and within NASA, there are so many divisions. And within all those divisions, collaboration, commitment to put in on a movie set. It's whether you want to believe they did or not. I used to believe, but I started to disbelieve NASA and moon landings around 2000 because I was fed up listening to the same old rabbiting blah 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 from NASA, and then I started to become a very biased non-believer. I do believe the Earth is round. I'm not that stupid. Of course, all the other planets are round in the Earth solar system. Gravity. It's one thing that kind of, and it's the rest of us are completely. Hey, guess what? We're powerless. Unless you got your own moon project thing in your back garden, so you can go up. Yeah. Anyway, I've got to back up where I was. Moon to believer, biased, biased and silence. Oh dear. Anyway, um, speakers. Yeah, speakers. So yeah, yeah. So you got someone ranting. Obviously, like myself, I'm sick as a parrot. I'm depressed with what I'm hearing, and I give everyone else here now the challenge to invent, and it's got to be cheap. No more greedy. No more of this greediness. Let's invent something and see if it can entertain me. And then, of course, mixing. Mixers would have to go to a school to learn how to use it and hear from them what sort of, because if I were to come up with an idea and then I set that to the engineers challenge to put all that package into a box. And oh yeah, how many? What sort of outputs do you use on it? DB25 connectors, maybe some hybrid upgraded optical output. It's got to use something that's got to connect to the amplifiers. And at the end of the day, you get your digitally encoding. You're taking something like that's a mix, and then encoding it digitally, and then it decoded digitally, and then it's still some way going to go through the signal set chain, and it's going to come out as an analog. um, and that's how nature is. I think nature is analog, or nature. No, that's just a made up invention. That's just a marketing made up word. Um, Nature is living. What you're hearing is artificial entertainment, but it's what level of that artificial entertainment, how far it, how more, how a little bit, how much further can it be taken until you say, well, the rest of it, that's it. It's literally impossible. The real thing at the end of the day is the real thing, you know. Um, I've got such a vivid, colourful imagination. Um, it's too bad I don't like to get into cahoots with, so what I say here, blah blah blah, and if I see anything like popping up, boom, then I know someone's been watching this video and not giving me any credit. And to me, that's fucking plain fucking rude. Just like Dolby Labs when I went to Dolby Labs on the telephone and told them about an idea that was a discovery, not an invention. It's a discovery that I discovered back in 1989. I thought, this would work with stereo split or split stereo, split surrounds, because that was about the only thing around then. Split surround. Split surround is a little bit different to stereo surrounds because of the frequency response restraints with 70 millimeter. Versus mono discrete, which is a little bit different frequency response. But um, yeah, and I share an idea. I should have, I should have, if I had paused, I would have most likely, you know, a year or so later or such, I would have had a computer, but not on the internet at the time. But then give it a little extra thought. I could have been online. Um, and shared the idea. Um, because there were a lot of other home theatres around at the time when I was using overhead speakers, and everyone was thinking, how the heck are you doing that? Because all their AVRs they've gone out and bought only do surround EX are only 3 channels. I was using 4 while everyone else was using 3 and thinking, how the heck are you doing that? They were completely baffled. And yet, mm, anyway, once you go to a college or you learn how to do stereo mixing and such, once you learn the basics, you think, oh, is that how it's done? Huh, huh. I'd rather I'd rather listen to something that's been done extremely well, not just something that sounds like something typical that I've heard in another movie last year and another movie that was 5 or 10 years ago, something that's I've heard already before. I want to hear completely something, but no, until they got a new system that is like, yeah, then I'm not going to hear anything as you know. They can put all these tracks and on a bloody but those tracks, how many I sometimes when they pan some of these sounds around, sometimes it doesn't have an organic sound. It doesn't seem nature like. It seems very plastic. Like it's just like taking an ordinary static sound and panning it around. It doesn't have any sort of Doppler sound shift or it, I'm noticing it and thinking, well, that's pretty boring. That's another crap Dolby Atmos movie that can go in a cat litter box. Mixers probably not very good on listening. Maybe they just know how to use the mixing console. Oh no, they didn't know how to use. They don't know how to use them. They had to learn how to use a mixing console, and then once they got the speed of how to, and push buttons, listen, monitor, and do that, I could get a trained chimpanzee to do the same damn thing. Maybe not be the best sound work, but I could still get a chimpanzee to do that. Um, you know, once you go up to 0 dB, that's it. You can't go anywhere else with it. And you got to most of all these sounds they're already compressed. And I don't know why people go on about bloody lossless audio and all that bullshit. And then you get in the bloody home. It's a near field mix. It's been tampered with. Crikey. So there's nothing like elite, say with I got a kaleidoscope. I get uncompressed bloody this bullshit. Oh, for please. You got terabyte this. Oh, please. And yet you get real film that's 35, 70 or on film, and you look at it and you can see the transparency of the color. Can you see the transparency of the color on a kaleidoscope? No, it's just a box with electronics. You can see the different colors of all the electronics inside the box, of course, but not the actual, the where the data is kept. It's on a SD card or whatever. It's just like, it's not like microfilm. And even with microfilm, it's transparent, although microfilm is very small. Um, Yeah, to have a speaker. Yeah, so yeah, if I wanted to multiply my stereo, yeah, I'll just use another um set of Behringers and more speakers in the room. Of course, I'd have to downscale the speakers for crying out, because I'd have to change all the cinema motion picture speakers behind the projection screen, downscale them, and then I could just literally multiply it, stereo, 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 and listen to stereo music, of course. And it would have, I would imagine the playback would probably make me feel very dizzy and disorientated. And I probably won't use much in the way of time delay. If I apply a lot of time delay, then you get an echo effect. Or when you pause the sound, you would then hear a slight delay in the sound, like an echo. Well, not like an actual echo in a room that's treated, but if it was in a room that's very echoey, you would hear like an echo, and until the echo fades and decays. Um, but yeah, it would sound extremely disorientating. Multiple stereo, literally floor, walls, ceiling. Oh my goodness. How many speakers? Well, it depends on what size speaker, and then how many of them that could be. Then you calculate the room size, and then calculate the size of the speaker and their positions, and calculate until you got a number that would literally be. It depends on how big the speaker is. The larger the speaker, the less speakers you could put in. And when you look at all these dub stages and see what size they are, and you think, why have they got these? Why have they got more or less the similar same layout as what it was in the 1940s? Fantasound had a lot of speakers going around. Though there's not many archival pictures to show, there's only very few pictures that someone probably took pictures, but they probably had no idea of the internet, or how, if there's still some of them around, maybe not. They had no idea this information's going to be, they're putting that, maybe publicize it in a newspaper or something back then, just to get maybe public to sort of think, oh wow, what's this? Yeah, it seems very technological back then to the anyone, Um, yeah, how big? Yeah, so if I were to use though they're very limited on their output, little speakers on the laptop, crikey, they're very limited in their bandwidth, frequency response. Might as well just use it for a tweeter range. Yeah, very limited, because they can't go up to because they're they can only handle so much, and you can't put too much in, otherwise you burn the voice coil out. But yeah, how many speakers? Yeah, that's the problem. Oh, all right. Let's say the typical traditional JBL Control 1 monitor speaker, and you got multitudes. If I were to put multitudes in my room, or maybe this bedroom, it's nice, even square shape. If I put multitudes of JBL, I'd have to work out I'd have to work it out first. But it would be quite a lot. It would be hundreds, tenfold, hundreds. Probably it might be a little shy of maybe less than 1,000. And that's just generally saying for argument's sake, because I haven't calculated I haven't done the calculation, but I would say less than, maybe just under, or maybe a fraction. over 1,000 speakers in this bedroom. And that's a lot. And it doesn't mean oh boof 150 dB, 100 and fucking stupid. You do the I don't know why that guy wants to play 150. My goodness, he's gonna fucking damage his hearing. And he's gonna damage someone else's hearing as well. Because once you get up to over 100 dB, you're entering danger zone. Danger, Mr. Robinson. You're entering a dodgy, slippy area where you can damage your hearing. You know, play a stupid game and win a stupid prize. There's nothing clever in it. And why does he need 20? You know, I'm sure there's a lot of other people who could work out they could do sub bass and get it up to a SPL level with minimum distortion and harmonics and such. Why you need that many? I think that guy, what's his name? I keep forgetting that guy's name. What's his name? He only does a video or two once every week or two. What's his name? Scott something, I think. Scott Newby, that's his name. Yeah. I don't know why he's got all those, and he's got absolute terrible surround speaker layout in that room. He's got 4 seats going across the back of the wall, the back of the room, and those 4 seats are not got good surround field coverage. It's like somewhere in the room there's got 2 speakers for this. What? He hasn't got proper surround coverage in that room. It's just a hunger ego, probably from some, what they call it, DB drag, I think they call it, which is a hi-fi car competition thing for bragging how much bloody SPL level you're putting out on your system. Really. I can understand why Guinness Book of Records won't grant him a record, because there's nothing unique about it. I doubt I'll be pretty maybe a little surprised even if the Spear got a Guinness Book of Record. No, because anyone could go out there and just supersede it, That's probably why. And I think there's only one other home theatre that had a Guinness Book of Record, and if you look at the layout in that room, that's absolutely dreadful. A Guinness Book of Record for a home theatre in Texas that's got an NC5. No. That's already been done by one other place, and I'm sure there's somewhere else that's probably got an NC down to 0, and then maybe negative, and then maybe minus 10, which is below 0. What sort of blooming NC is that? Unless it came from outer space. Yeah, over 1,000 speakers. Yeah, doesn't necessarily mean you got to play it loud. Still play it sensible. And how much of it would you feel? It depends on how it's designed into the whole structure. So as the diaphragm's moving with the magnet structure and the vibrations and that, are coupled to a frame that's connected throughout the room, and then you feel that. So when you're seated, or even if you're standing up, walking around, you still feel it. Under a specific SPL, because if you see how much vibration we can take or withstand, until it gets to a point where it seems a little bit stupid now, could be a little risky on the amount of vibration. I think fucking hell, sick of this shit. NASA have done bundles of testers. There's some links out there where you could look on all the NASA data with how we feel vibrations and what SPLs and what frequencies, etc., that create these things that could create disorientations or blackout or such. When you get up to those sort of critical numbers, yeah. I think what that guy, I was just thinking back to what this guy is doing in his room. As he's not shown anything technical. He's got all those subs. He's probably got a single microphone, and he's not shown any technical data of like what the frequency response is in the room. So and he's not even shown any or will show probably technical data on the amplifiers, because as he measured the amplifiers themselves that are powering all those subs, has he measured them independently, do a frequency sweep, so you get a direct frequency response sweep from those amplifiers. Do they have a roll off? Are they flat? I have no idea, because I could look at the frequency response on my amplifier and I can see it's rolling off. And if I want to get it so that on the Storm Audio or to the REW, what I can see, it stops around about 2 hertz. I mean, 2 hertz is flipping low. I mean, that's like probably taking my fingers and lightly pressing gently on my tummy. But does it make a stupid 150 dB SPL level? Of course it doesn't. I'd have to do so and if I did, I'll be in a pretty bad situation. Anyone would, because of the our bodies resonate at an infrasonic frequency, and it's published that if we match the same frequency, not very good. So yeah, it seemed a bit, going into an area where with frequency and SPL could be a little dodgy. The Earth resonates at somewhere, I forgot what frequency, it resonates around 7 hertz or something, I think. As someone calculated many decades ago, quite a while long ago, calculated the ocean waves and the gaps between ocean waves, and then came up with a formula that the Earth, the planet, has a resonant frequency. But yeah, if I got a frequency response that's rolling off a little bit down to 2 hertz, I'm seeing roughly, I can make a few compensations with some filters, because technically it should be going flat. It should be going linearly across flat. Because there's some filter action going on that's rolling off. Um, that filter rolling off, gosh, has to be analysed. You got to analyse the computer sound card. You got to analyze the amplifier, the processor, and anything else within a B chain. Analyze the and analyze the amplifiers. Everything's got to be individually analyzed. And then you see that, there's some filter action going on. What? It's like they're trying to say they don't want the user to go down into the the forbidden infrasonic zone. Whoa, the bass is down here. Um, yeah, those are just filters. Otherwise, any audio equipment with a loudspeaker management system is going to have a crossover. So you could purposely, if you want to protect the speakers from, damage because they can't do anything, and you need something else of another type of speaker to take over, and then do the rest. But and the rest of that infrasonic, as they say. I mean, does this guy in his room, does he get any in the ways of if he generates a sine wave tone, is he seeing any harmonic frequencies? Because if you generate an infrasonic frequency, or say 10 hertz, you should sense something. There shouldn't really be anything that's audible. It should be something that's you shouldn't be hearing any sort of mechanical noise. It should be completely, as if not invisible, but you can sense it. It's got to be produced in a way that would probably be heard in, or maybe sensed in nature. Maybe a volcano eruption. What are you doing, Bear? Oh, what is going on out here? What are you doing? What are you doing? No, stop that behavior. Dad, what are you trying to do? Knock these on the floor. He wants whiskers. Hold on. Hold on. Yeah, I've got to take my medication back. Oh, that's supposed so good. I'm just going to skip this stove. Stove taste. Yeah. Okay, good boy. He's going a bit berserk, I think, for some cat food. Ealing peckish. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, let my cat bear some whiskey. Yeah, all this talk recently I've been seeing about Ascendo. Oh gosh, here we go again. Ascendo. And they're infrasonic, and they got amplifiers that go down infrasonic. My Behringers go down infrasonic. My Alasius amplifier go down infrasonic. It's not like the frequency sweep stops literally at 20 with a vertical drop off at 48 dB. They can still go low, but they got a shallow, what they appear to be is like a shallow 12 dB octave. I suppose if you've got a shallow 12, then you can kind of calculate, do the, to compensate, because you can still hear something. It's like passive crossovers on speakers, they have a roll off, but you can still disconnect the other speakers and then generate a sine wave tone, and you can still hear it, even though it's rolling off at maybe 6 or 12 dB. Unless you go electronic active crossover or DSP, and then you can use filters that are a little bit more steeper, 24, 36, 48 dB. Actually, you can add 48 to 48, and then you've got a very steep filter where the speaker sound is going to stop there, and then the rest of it will get carried over to the next speaker driver element using the same filter steepness, so it carries over. You could do lots of things there. But does this guy, like I say, is he done frequency analyzing, checking? He's bragging that, like he's the loudest home atmosphere on the planet. A dub stage or something could sort of like think, we could go a bit more than that, because one, we got a room size that would carry the lower frequencies a lot better, and we could just put in piles and piles and piles and make it sound like Atmos sensor round on steroids. Um, you analyze a little bit more deeply into the sort of thing, and then you think, how much more can you get out of it? I mean, I think it's better with tactile bass shakers. One, um, they don't cost the stupid amount of you know money um, that this guy's been spending on speakers. Crikey, he's just paid for some guy's brand new motor car. What's he going to go from 20 to 24 speakers next? And that's and that's in the same sport. I mean, why not use why not just use the garden and make something a little bit larger? And not just the garden, but you excavate down a little bit. You do it just like a mini auditorium that has a sloping floor. Da di da di da. It's not rocket science, and it doesn't cost millions of dollars. Oh dear. No. I know when I do a frequency sweep on the JBLs, like their frequency response has got a bit of a wiggly. So once it gets down to below 10 hertz, it starts to drop off a bit and such. But it still registers on the equipment, on the test equipment, infrasonic frequency being picked up, just as if it were a radio signal. It still registers, but you can't hear it. You might see a radio signal that's coming on through radio astronomy, but it's not much there to be desired for to be heard. You can just see that there's a signal, but you can't really say, it's not FM radio, but you can see there's a signal there. So you know that, yeah. But if I look at the frequency response on my system, I can see a nice response electronically, and then it drops down to about 2 hertz. And then I look at the where the microphone, and that depends on where the microphone is placed, or microphones, because I could use one up to 24 microphones if I want to, and have them placed all around the room, and then do a frequency sweep, and then I'll see like, oh right, but that's from picking the frequency response up front, middle of the room, right to the back of the room, corners. It depends on how randomly I spread and place out the microphones, and then they pick up the sound. And I look at the data and I think, which part do I EQ or put filters to get it similar to that frequency response on the amplifier? But I don't want it like rolling off. I want it going linearly flat. I know there's a filters. I know there's some 12 dB or such octave filters at hand, and they're rolling it off. Um, like I say, I can compensate, and where my system, the Behringer amplifiers are at present, it's up here. I've got it nice and smooth down almost to about 10 hertz, and then it's about 20 dB down to about 2 hertz. That's 20 dB. That's easy to work out. I just need one of those mini DSP 4x4 HDs, but they're £350 for a little box of electronics. And I've had one of those before. I was not very pleased with. Didn't blow my socks off, but that was a few years back. I had one of those, and I only had it for a few days, and then I sold it. But I might get one again. But I'll just give it a little bit of fault. There's not many other EQs that you can get hold of that can go down to about 1 hertz in the EQ filters. You look on the Room EQ Wizards equalizer, so I could simulate if I want to. I could go to the Room EQ simulator and select from the list one of the EQ filters. There's many others, and some of those others can't even go down below 20, and some only go down. I like the Storm Audio only goes down to 16 hertz. But if I use the Dirac EQ, I can go down a bit lower, but I don't want to because that means I've got to do all the EQ for the other speakers in the room, which I'm not happy with Dirac. But I would probably maybe just so I can use a few more filters there so I can adjust. I don't want to say I could put easily a filter and raise it up where it's rolling off and raise it until it looks linearly flat. But I would have to check double and quadruple check that the voltage level and the signal input levels to amplifiers and all that are not in the way that it's going to damage the amplifier's input signal. Otherwise, yeah. So that have to all be thoroughly checked. And also, it will probably with the amplifier, let's say how high the level can go until it says you can't go any more because it's almost near zero, and you want to keep it a little bit less than that zero. You don't want it going all the way up. Otherwise, you play a soundtrack, it's going to go bam right up to the top, and it's going to start distorting, clipping, and then it's going to knacker the amplifier. So it's all got to be set so you've got headroom for it to move, but it'll probably limit the output power as well as the SPL level. And then everything else on the system would have to be compensated, adjusted, because having maybe something that's got a bit more power, yeah, maybe. Something that's you just add on extra more speakers and they're all connected to the same sort of system for the subs, to the infrasonics or blow or whatever, to go. You add on a speaker and a speaker and a speaker, it goes up by 3 dB, 3 dB, 3 dB. So you increase. And also, you don't want the signal to be harmonics. You don't want any harmonics appearing. I can't see many harmonics on the Behringer until I turn the gain level up a little bit more higher, and then I will start seeing harmonics. I can hear them coming ahead. I can hear them on the speaker. You take the levels up to a certain point, and then the speaker will start generating the harmonic frequency tones. And then when you turn the level down, you don't notice it. You can just see this fundamental frequency, but there's something still there mechanically that is obviously the speaker driver moving. And if you turn the level or the voltage level or the amplitude level down a little bit more, that's the volume, decrease it, you can still see the fundamental frequency on the RTA. Then it gets to a point where it sounds like you don't really hear it. You can see it, but you can't really. And you're thinking, is there any other test equipment I can use to analyze this? Because, I like Mr. Spock being the science officer. He's suspicious, Captain. You add another you add another speaker, and then that signal is going to go up 3 dB. You add another, that signal is going to go up until it seems like, because if you just, that's probably where that myth busting thing that was done many years ago. They didn't just, that was just those Mythbuster guys, I can't seriously sometimes take them. Well, I couldn't take them serious with that stupid thing because they were making it like a media little circus, wearing nappies and stuff, like not taking it serious. And I think getting those guys, what were they, Maya Sound or something like that? It was absolute fail because I think that everything that was checked and analysed in that short little video that they did for TV, there wasn't enough science in it. Like, what are the frequency responses on those amplifiers generating the for those speakers, etc., and all that? They obviously had a roll off, so they're losing power and they're compensating and well, and probably generating harmonic frequencies and other sort of things. So it probably didn't do it very thorough and a lot more because maybe bass shakers or such. Because at some point, a vibration generated at a very high level would probably cause our body to feel very discomforting. That's my theory. And based on my heart, a few heart attacks, I'll tell you, a heart attack's a scary thing because you feel pressure. It feels like it's pushing inwards on your chest. Feels like it's pushing inward. Um, and then, of course, well, there's the other things. Yeah, low blood circulating, and you just feel like deflated. You feel like you just got to lay down horizontally and just relax and not do it when you want to go to it. Just relax. Otherwise, you're going to come very sick or be overcome. You would just fall over. I think that's what the music song was trying to convey. Not masturbating, really. I mean, seriously now. Anyway, that's my thinking on it. Oh dear. I just haven't got enough. I think going out and buying one of those Ascendo subs. What do you call it? 50 inches, 80 inches. I don't think there's a lot of people that could say that. I don't think there's there's a few that have it and not seen many videos. So, is there something not mechanically right about those things? I mean, it would be embarrassing to have something that costs that amount of money, and when it's mostly, when you look at it, you subtract the the driver from it, and then you look at the rest of it, and you think this is just like common MDF. I could go down to the hardware store and get all that MDF at this price, and I paid this amount. And what's the big deal with the amplifier? Oh, come on. And if it makes anything in the way of mechanical noises, then it's a fail. And if it doesn't make any mechanical noises, because it will make some, it, it's probably a lot easier. And even a door that you move in and out, back and forth, a door in a room. You get up, you set the microphone up, and you use Spectrum Lab. You can see it on Room EQ Wizard on the RTA. You'd be able to see it. And you move that door back and forth, and then you would see an infrasonic frequency, depending on the size of the room and I suppose well, the doors are usually all universally the same sizes for rooms. You would see an infrasonic frequency, you should see below 10 hertz. And then the more pushing that you give is giving amplitude, and then you can see it on spectrum now. It's just like when you see those movie soundtracks, you can see the width of the waveform, and then you can see the color. When the slower you do it, you see a very slow, small amplitude. The more you give it, and then the color goes from a green up to an orange, up to a reddy, or even pink. White would be very high level, very high, very rare. But usually, if you get a see a pink, you think, "Wow, look at that amplitude," and then you look at it on the movie, and you think, "Blimey, it's not as that Doom movie is not doing it as very well down this range here." But wow, I just moved my door in my room, and what I generated that. Hmm. Mind you, that door area, is a lot, and moving it back and forth is a lot more excursion than any sub on the planet can do. Because you're looking at moving a door back and forth, something like several feet, and then it just generates this, like, you think, wow, and that's naturally done through muscle, mind over muscle, through waving a door back and forth. Oh, and it does the same thing if you open a window. You open a window, poof, you change the air pressure, and you see an infrasonic frequency. You hear a bass frequency and some audible mid frequency, but there's also an infrasonic that you don't even notice unless you've got test equipment. And then you can see that, wow, there's an infrasonic frequency there. I didn't hear that, because you can't. We can't. It's below our hearing range. It's outside our hearing range, rolls off. So you got to think, an amplifier that's going linear, and then you got to think, do I apply the Fletcher-Munson curve and elevate it? You got to elevate that very steadily and very carefully, and so it seems very smooth, very high amplitude, but no harmonic frequency. Well, any speaker, anything is going to generate harmonic. You want to have the less, you want to get it. So it's not difficult. It's not difficult. Just need a room big enough. You need the certain element, certain tools, and it's not impossible to achieve. It's just very few and far between. Some people have got a system that does something like that. And some people may not want to brag on the internet that they got a system like that, but it's easy. Anyone can go out and do something like that. It's if you're really that interested. And of course, providing it's on a mix. Because if it isn't on a mix, there's nothing going to be down. There's nothing going to be but a quiet noise of a sort that's going to be down there. Nothing more than maybe garbage. So you got to have something that's mixed and doing something. And then why do they mix it on a dub stage? Do dub stages have bass shakers? Because whether you can generate that through a sine wave, and due to the room being very large, but still the wave that is still being generated in that room is still longer than the room itself. when you go down infrasonic. It's longer than the length of the room. It's bigger than the room. But it would be a little bit better than a home. Just larger the size, the better. But it doesn't mean it's not there. It's still there. It's just how do I control it? Oh God, I need how many filters would I have to apply? Fundle around because it's a juggling act. It's it's like I get a piece of string, I place it on a table, and I'll wiggle it around just so it has all these wiggles and sharp wiggles and whatever. And then it's like, yeah, it's just the same sort of thing. Like if I start pushing the string at this point down, so then it starts pushing the shape of the rest of the string this way and that way. It changes yeah, it's tricky to sort of until you got a formula that only works for the system in your own room. You can't say use this formula that I've used in your room. It's not going to work. It will not apply. You got to use the tools, maybe the same tools I'm using, and then you got to shape it in your room until you got it like something like this, because your room's going to have different wiggles and different things. There's going to be different objects and things in a room. The frequency is going to travel around that room, rebound off a surface, and go back to the microphone, and then it's going to register all these, and you're going to think, bloody hell, how do I do that? Oh, flipping that, what a mess. But if you analysed it outdoors, it's the opposite. And then you think, yeah, you just got to solve it. Only you can solve it. There's no point getting someone really paid greedily money just so they could come around your home and you pay them how much and how long are they going to be around your home for? I mean, preposterous, absolutely preposterous. I wouldn't have Anthony Granami in my room, not for 1 minute, because he'll be charging stupid money. But I've already learnt it. Most other people, and if I want to, what's Anthony Granani going to use? 6 microphones? Oh, hey, how about using 24 microphones? Do it, cut some corners and cut some time down here using. If we want to go, we'll go to 48 microphones. How about 100 microphones? Yeah. And you think, wow, all that just to listen to a crappy, lousy, lame Atmos mix at the end of the day? I don't know. It's getting that frequencies, all those frequencies. And then you do a before after. You bypass all the EQs. And you think, yeah, that's not bad. And then you put but you just have the microphones in different position locations to the equipment, because the speakers are only being generated with amplifier power, but the amplifier power frequency response looks okay until it reaches a speaker with a passive crossover to a speaker element driver, or to ones where it's electronically being done, active crossover, or DSP, loudspeaker management, where the frequency response on that crossover looks a-okay, versus one on a passive crossover that looks a little bit. Mm, I think it'd be better to go DSP. But with the amount of how many DSPs, it starts racking the price up. Unless you can get those things off the back end of a lorry very cheaply, no questions asked. Otherwise, and the amplifiers. Otherwise, it's going to rack up the price. And you think you got a system that costs so much, and you got a lot of crappy Atmos mixes out there, and there's only very few of them that really sound like benchmark, even though they're still crap because they don't have any discrete below surround, and they're not really a 3D sound format, but they're just a little bit more better than the other crappy mixes for some crappy overrated Marvel movie. Or some crappy Bond movie or whatever. Um, yeah. Personally, I think some of the Atmos titles I got over up there on the shelf, I think I should just, I don't know, sell them. Not going to get much. Thing is, not going to get much for them. They're pretty worthless as they are. They're pretty worthless. I mean, there's some there that most people are probably aware of and probably wouldn't want to touch with a barge pole. But I bought a few because I was out to expose some of all these sorry about pointing my finger. I was out to more or less expose some of the bullshitting shills on YouTube, like there's one. There's about four to five bullshitting shills on YouTube. They probably got the disc obviously sent to them earlier than most other people would get hold of, and so they're doing some sort of bullshit review or some other bullshit, trying to say you're not affiliated. Yeah, bullshit. Me personally, I would never go down so low. I wouldn't degrade myself so low to affiliate myself. I wouldn't affiliate myself with Storm Audio. I say they got problems with their processor. Yeah, I'm not very pleased with something that it keeps getting bullshitting in the marketing. High end. To me, there is no high end. There's no low end. There's either you've got a specification that's good on the numbers, but it shouldn't be granted high end just because it's got there's lots of equipment out there that's been around for years and it's got low signal noise ratios. Yes, the lower the signal to noise ratio, the better. Doesn't mean it's high end. Every piece of audio equipment should have a low signal to noise ratio. I mean, think about it. What's the standard or the signal to noise ratio on mix dub stages on their mix consoles? And then you go back all the decades of sound mixing, and you can hear the signal noise. You can hear it in some of the very, very movies. Oh, many decades back, many mono mixes and such, and you can hear all the scratchy saying. You can hear all the others. That's signal noise on the recording equipment that was used, and but it captured sound, but it's got this very, you know, it's got this sound that back then they were probably thinking how to get this lower, how to get rid of this noise, because they don't hear it on the they don't hear it. They hear it on the recording equipment that's being used. Um, and then eventually you got amplifiers, and you got more added signal to noise ratio noise. And you got to get that lower. My goodness. And then you got tinnitus itself. I got tinnitus. So if it with tinnitus, that's a signal noise. That's a signal noise ratio. It's very low. Depends on what day, week, whatever, and the level might be a little bit higher. On other days, it's lower, and other days I can't hear it. So it's kind of a good day sort of thing. But it's always variable. Once you go over that threshold, you keep playing these stupid SPL levels. Eventually, bam, and then you're going to hear this hissing noise in your ears or a ringing noise, which occasionally a ringing sound often wears down. You can't. I get one. I wiggle, do that, just wiggle, and it just bing, it just fades down. It's very rare I get something like that. But it only lasts a short while. The the hissy sound is, which is a narrow band frequency. That's been there. I've heard that now since 1970 fucking 9 fucking cents around, fucking playing at 120 or maybe 130 dB. I've read and heard rumors, maybe 130. And our hearing range has a threshold for pain, or has a threshold. Once you start going right up to over 100, you're getting risky. It's getting risky. And do we hear that shit in real life on a daily day basis? No, we don't. You go out there, SBL meter, test equipment, and analyze. You're going to see averages of street level noise between a 90 dB. If it's roadworks, yes, those are mechanical hydraulic things, and they're going to be a little bit louder. But generally, it's around about 90. But it's not a 90 dB that sounds painfully fatiguing most of the time. You listen to that on a movie soundtrack, and they got street sound and anything, depending on, or you could turn the fader. It's called riding the fader. You ride it. You just ride it. Because you know that this is a crappy mix, and I'm just thinking of that ambulance movie. What do you call it? Ambulance. That bloody. I don't really particularly buy that garbage trash director's garbage trash anymore. Michael Bay garbage trash. I'm pretty sure that's a garbage trash atmos mix. I don't care what someone says, how great. Yeah, how has it got directional dialogue panning in it? Does it sound like you hear the voice? It sounds like you're there. Does it have the vehicle moving around? Does it sound like the vehicle's more mechanically moving around rather than just record a sound with a few microphones with a sound editor? They take it to a dove state and then they just piss around with it, but they don't really create anything creative out of the whole bloody thing. It just sounds like another typical bloody movie. And not much use on the overhead speakers or creativity. Yeah. It's like, do you want to own that movie? Or, Amazon doesn't do too much. Amazon's pretty useless. Jeff Bezos, greedy son of a bitch, doesn't do Amazon on everything, so you can play it back in Amazon. So I could get an idea whether I want to rent it. Yeah. And if I think it completely sucks in an atmos mix and I am completely very aware of how sound is mixed. If it does not come up to my criteria, I will not buy that movie. I would think, nah, at least I rented it, but I don't have to buy the damn thing and put it on a shelf. Um, hmm. How long have I been ranting now? 2 hours. My goodness. 2 hours. I think this is my record for maybe this week, 2 hours. Because usually I could rant up to 24 hours. I don't see Youth Man or Shane Lee or Gene DeSella ranting 24 hours. They haven't got the energy. And I've had heart attacks. I'm in heart fibrillation. So I've got bragging rights. But I'm relaxing. Are you relaxed? Yeah, if I want to go to a THX cinema, it's literally next door. I'm not interested in going in there today. I'm not interested. I was in there, I think it was yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah. But I got to go in the room because I got a light to fit. I got to fit a light up, which should only take me a couple of minutes to get it in place, fit it in. One of my LED lights that I fitted up last year, one of them failed. So it's either the LEDs have burnt out, literally, or it's one part of the electronics on the circuit board, because there's a small circuit board that goes in that's a little transformer that converts the voltage. Um, that's either failed. Um, and these light things they're not very easy. I don't think they're very easy to open up. Um, if I could knew a way that I could open it up, then I would check with the voltmeter. What type of LED lights are inside, and then check with the voltmeter to see if they're an open circuit. But when I tested the two connections on and that's only one part of the light I tested, and it was an open circuit. But it could be an open circuit on the lights because they would all be in a series. I don't think they'd be running parallel. I think they would be in a series. So one light on this side and another on this, there'll be a wire, and it should be, I think, like connected in a series. Or it could be a capacitor. But I had the light on one time, and I turned the lights off for the video projector. And when I turned the lights back on, the room suddenly behind me, I could tell instantly it looked a little dim. And I turned around and thought, oh, one of the LEDs has gone out. Oh. So I bought another one of the same. So I got two, but I'll have a backup. I'll have a backup spare one. I bought another one that would it looked like was from the same manufacturer, but when I got it, I thought, oh, it hasn't got the same fitting. So yeah, I could still use it for something else, but the other one, I'm not even going to bother trying to open it up, because if I try opening up, it's going to look a mess, and so I'll just do what my dad says: bin it. Don't keep it, bin it. um, what am I going to use it for? An anchor weight? Um, yeah, so I'll probably go in the room later and just fit the light up, and then come back to bed. There's not much I really could do today. Think about think about that mini DSP, because that mini DSP will easily grant me permission to get it filters down below 20 hertz that I could use, and address. I'm not looking to get my JBL subs can do infrasonic. They might not do it at very high SPL level, the same with any speaker. You just got to keep adding and adding and adding and adding, and it goes up 3 dB, 3 dB, 3 dB, and so on. Otherwise, you're throwing, yeah. Otherwise, that guy is he? Yeah, 150 dB. Is he thoroughly checked? And is he fully aware of harmonic frequencies? Because it doesn't matter. You could brag what you could have the best bloody whatever speaker. The more you the more you give it, eventually it's going to start having harmonic frequencies appearing on it, and those are pitched up a little. So you've got a fundamental there, and you're going to have harmonics way up here, and they're audible. And you think, what the heck is that? You think you're hearing infrasonic, but you're not. That's a harmonic. If you're looking at an RTA analyzer and you think, turn down the level, the harmonic suddenly disappears. And then you got this other sound, but does that sound like infrasonic? I wouldn't know, because we don't usually particularly notice or hear infrasonic on a day basis. It's that simple. We could feel it, but we don't really hear the damn thing until it was amplitude at a level where it won't have harmonics appearing something until it sort of gets to a point where I don't feel very good, you know? You've got to be very careful with infrasonics, because if you match your body's resonant frequency, you're going at a very high level, you're probably not going to have a very nice day. And it might have some maybe possible irreversible. You're going to be in hospital while they're scratching their heads trying to figure out what's wrong with this person. It's better to play safe than sorry, because it's the same with, I give you a telescope, I don't give you a sun filter. Here you go, you can look at the sun. You look at the sun for more than 2 or 3 seconds, it will burn the retina on your eye and you'll be blinded. If you suddenly look, then whoops, went like that, you might get temporary blindness that may last 8-10 minutes. I had 8 minutes of it. It scared the shit out of me. And that was like, woof, what the heck? And I thought, oh, I forgot to put the sun filter on the bloody eyepiece, which is a black filter. It's the same as what you use for carbon arc welding and such. It's a filter. And so you only see a green color when through the filter when it's very bright. You only see a greeny color, and so it won't harm your eyes. It's the same with laser. You use a red filter to protect your eyes. You can point a laser at you, won't affect, because you're wearing a red filter. So yeah, you got to use the right tools for the right job. Otherwise, yeah. Have I got sun filters for my my telescope? I've got eyepieces, etc. I'm not sure with my new telescope. Although I'm not sure the threads from my other telescope. I'm not sure. I could get filters. And the simplest thing is you take the eyepiece out and you point the telescope at white cardboard, and then you can safely look at it and you see the sunspots. Otherwise, it's a little bit difficult sometimes to because our eyes usually have little spots of dust and particle. I'm looking at it right now, and they seem like they're floating and transparent above me. Oh, objects, atmos. My eyes are seeing atmos. It's only when you're looking at a bright coloured white surface or a bright coloured dark colours, your eyes won't register it because of it just wouldn't register as easily. Um, yeah. Yeah, I saw a video the other day about that youth man video, the youth man guy. He doesn't look very youthful. He's getting old, he is. He's gonna have to change his handle to old man. He's not getting very youthful. Um, does my screen vibrate if I use all my JER sub bass speakers? I couldn't really, frankly, I couldn't care less. I could see when he put his hand and waved it and saw the ripples wobbling in that screen and thinking that screen's not very taut or very tight. My screen, when I put it, it was almost as similar. Um, Maybe when pressing my hand on um, uh, recently, I think it was last year. I think it was super micro perforated screen because it's very rare to see now super micro perforated screens in cinemas because the holes are more small. Because the front row seating, sometimes you can see the normal cinema perforations if you know what to look for with a certain image that's on the screen, and then you see the perforations, regular perforations, which are a little bit wider. But the micro perforations are a lot smaller. I was very surprised to see that at the local downtown. Um, it just shows how many years I've been out the loop. I'm retired. So they're probably using more super micro perforated screens now than the regular perforated. Of course, my screen doesn't have micro perforation. It's one of those. I forgot what name anyway, it's transparent. It lets the sound pass through. I don't really care. I don't care what it is. I could use a bed sheet, though a bed sheet you can see all the fiber marks in the bed sheet crisscrossing, and spandex you don't see as much, but you got to get it stretched uniformly so it doesn't, and yet gives a good image. Spandex, and it's cheap. I mean, all this stupidity with stupid marketing bullshit with YouTubers, Youth Man, and all the other bullshitters on YouTube. Shills. You got to buy this screen. It cost me $700. This one cost me $2,000, and I think, what the blazes are they spending that sort of money on a projection screen that does nothing other than it's going to let sound pass through an image projected onto it? But most of the time, it's nothing. It's just like an OLED or flat screen TV. It's black. That's doing squat at the moment. It's like looking at the monolith. Dun, 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 dun. It's like looking at the monolith. You're looking at a black what places, But I'll give you a little life thing here, because I've had so many blackouts in the past. I've lost count how many blackouts, and it's like near death. Seriously, I've come near death so many times. It's scary. You don't hear any sound, you can't see anything. You just completely, boom, completely unconscious. But your heart, or my heart, is still going until I come conscious again. It's like something nudging me, like a guardian angel or something. I don't know. Maybe my sooty or my magic. Maybe my sooty or at the times. Trying to, I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe my dad. I don't know. But that's what it is. You just see complete pitch black darkness. You could have a light bright in front of you and you don't see anything. I don't even hear my tinnitus It goes complete zero, silent, and I'm still like there, motionless. I can't move. And then suddenly, bush, it's like the blood flow, I think, a blood circulation. And it's damn scary. Mm. It's just as easy as turning the light off. Of course, there's still light in this room. It's just like that. Bam. You think, what the heck? Yeah. So youth man, if he was generating too much oh yeah, plus I could hear the vibration behind his screen. Those things, those subs are playing too loud and he's not well, isn't he I think he's allegedly he's gonna be moving home soon, so that's when he sells his house, obviously, because he can't move yet. He's he's obviously got something, it's waiting, but he can't move yet until someone buys his house. So yeah, he could be there for another 5, 6 months until someone buys his home, and then it's all packing and then moving and that. And then you see the Youth Man New Home Theatre. Oh, what's that going to be like now? That's going to be interesting. Is it going to be a larger room? Is it going to be better? Is it going to be a little bit over the top, like trying to make it like NC5 noise rating? A room within a room within a room within a room within a room. Well, that'd be a little bit over the top. If you live in a quiet neighborhood with less traffic on the road, you don't need a room within a room. Just simple, it's not a recording studio where you need a signal noise ratio so low so that what you're mixing and hearing, without audible outside distractions, otherwise you can compensate quite easily using the if a film sounds too loudish, use the loudspeaker, what do you call it? The dynamic range control. Dynamic range control will keep the louder sounds going any too loud. And plus, you can still hear everything. You still get good action from it. It just doesn't mean it's going to wreck your hearing too much, and it will raise up the softer sounds and make those a little bit clearer. So it's basically you set the volume there and put the dynamic range control on, and then that's it. Leave it there. It will, if you wanted some of those, let me say, if you wanted some of those lower frequencies to be a little bit more shimmering or empty or whatever, then put a few simple EQ filters or bell shape filters. Put a few of those in a few places. Don't put a high pass filter and crop off the flipping all the top high end, for crying out. You don't want to do that. Just put where it's usually crucial filter, and then you could turn the fader up level up a little bit higher, because obviously most people in their home theaters don't have their fader level up near zero, and then you could turn it up a little bit, and then you get those low frequencies kind of back a little bit, but it improves the softer sounds that play in the soundtrack, because they'll be raised up so much dB. Makes it a little bit easier to hear. So, several things to do. And you don't need a room within a bloody room within a room just to hear those softer sounds, Or, oh, gosh. What if you make actual sounds yourself? If you go out in the real world and make real sounds that you could do in front of you, rustling your hand, moving your hands like that, versus street level sound, and then how much of that, the more faster, the more louder it gets, or you make certain sounds that seem natural, maybe like that, and versus the sounds outside, and you can still hear that. You know, the real thing outside is going to make any atmos mix totally insignificant. But when you hear it, and you hear all what they've mixed, and you think, that's another thing. Be interesting. I'll be back in a sec. This would be interesting. Well, I need a little bit more. Need to make a snack. I haven't had a snack. Need to make a meal. And you've had a meal, Bear. He's had a meal. Still sitting there, sweetie. Still sitting over there, sweetie. Oh, he's moving. Oh. Danny. Give that a few minutes. Cook, bake potato. Well, oh, meow. 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 Oh, meow. 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 Oh, you can have a little bit. I'm finished. You can have a little bit. Now a little bit. Meow. I know now. I feel like doing noodles. I know my meow. I'm not meal there. Snack potato jam. We got biscuit down here. Yeah. Yeah. Do you get Doppler sound shifts with, or frequency peaks and nulls with anything, even a microwave and moving forward and backwards? You hear the sound going, ooh, ooh. You stand in one position, you just hear it like a static sound. Start moving because you're moving, and then the sound, the microwave. So I know. I wonder if that picks up on the microphone. It'd be interesting. I'll come to the other thing in a moment when I've had a meal. I'm on a break, intermission. Oh. Just check. Yeah, what's it? It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. You see, you won't get this much cynical detail. You won't get this on the Youth Man channel. You certainly won't get it on those other channels because they're not. I mean, Youth Man won't go anywhere near like being totally biased. He just wants to kiss asses with all these other big manufacturers out there and just be a shill. Yeah, he's only getting chicken feed. Well, actually, it's not even that. It's probably pigeon feed. If he's making a little, yeah. I don't particularly want to bother with that. Could do it with some sweet corn. Yeah, just have a meal snack there with yeah. Probably get a meal like that. Yeah. I got some baked beans or some protein. Yeah. Oh. What's up there? Hold your horses. Right, lick the rest of that out there, Beth. I think I'll pass on that. I like that ambient sound the microwave makes. I like that ambient sound. It sounds like Die Hard. Yeah, if you listen to Die Hard, it sounds like that air conditioning thing in Die Hard. That air ventilation in Die Hard. maybe with some coleslaw. Yeah. You gotta shake it furiously. Paul Newman. You gotta shake it furiously. Paul Newman. You like that, Bear? Do you want some Paul Newmans on it? Newman's Own. It started as a joke. That's a tasty island dressing. It's the herbs and spices. Just like the herbs and spices on a KFC today, a KFC sounds KFC today tastes not the same as what it was in the 1970s. Totally opposite. My recall is still trying to say it had a bit more crumble, whereas the one today, the KFC, it I don't know. It's how it's prepared. It's just I mean, the gravy they do seems okay, but the chips, I don't know. I seem to recall the chips or whatever the heck they were. They seem more like French fry, but now they're like soggy chips. Jesus fucking Christ! I could go to a proper fish and chip restaurant and get proper fucking chips. God. Talk about trade-off for one artifact for another. Fucking a KFC today is... You can survive on this shit, but you can't really live on it. Oh, that was simple. That was simple and a lot cheaper than a KFC. Oh. Yeah, I don't know what possessed me yesterday to get a KFC. I think it's the internet that possesses. They put these flashing images out on the screen that says KFC, KFC, Burger King, Burger King. And you get in these flashing images, these flashing frames, and they subconsciously. Yeah. And there's my brand new light in this box. I've got another package in there I've got to take out as well. So I'll unbox that later. Oh yeah, there's still a lot more. You know, the more soundly I think, the more I observe, and the more I observe the sound and everything that associates feeling and emotion. Feeling pissed off with atmos. Feeling pissed off with atmos. Because I know deep down it's a fake 3D sound format. Oh my goodness. And for those for idiots that you want to go out there and buy sound bars, I don't know why I need these glasses on. Buying sound bars is even worse, especially with some of the stupid prices they cost. And yeah, has anyone on YouTube done a thorough check on those sound bars? Yeah, and put it through its paces. I mean, because if I would put it through one through its paces, I would see if it could really withstand the SPL levels. Because they're all the same. When you look at a soundbar, they all look the same, just different manufacturer. And personally, I think a soundbar looks like a glorified center channel. Yeah, when you think of it, yeah. And looking at the recent things on YouTube, the last few months with the Audioholics, the Youth Man, and whatever, that stupid Arnell or whatever it is center channel. I would pay them to throw that speaker on a fire. It doesn't belong in a home theater world. It does not belong. It's an outcast. It doesn't match with the left and right. It's an outcast. Should be burnt, tied to the stake. Burn the wicked center channel. Burn the wicked soundbar. Oh dear, oh dear. Is it going to get to that? Oh my goodness. Yeah, they're just idiots that like thinking they don't look on eBay. I don't think Youth Man does. I don't think he looks on eBay that much. Look at those big speakers there. Oh, Youth Man, he hasn't seen big speakers yet. He thinks those JERs are the biggest thing he's seen since sliced bread. They're just modules. When you look at them, they're just like, and you think, another way of looking at one of those JERs is like, looks so sort of similar, like you could use it for an IMAX enhanced home theater. Because you generally look at the typical design of a speaker for a Limax, because they're mostly Limax today. They're just 4 drivers in a box with a mid-range and a high range in the box, and that's it. That sort of design hasn't really much changed. I don't think much since looking at the apart from some of the other models, which frankly they look very ugly. I mean, hideous in their design. Mostly they're going to be behind the screen, so you're not going to notice them. And the other few that you can see in the auditorium, they look really ugly. I mean, hideous. I mean, the other ones that I saw that I think have been associated have been around for many years. They weren't exactly eye-pleasing. Uh, they looked very kind of like, yeah, I don't think I want that in a room. It looks like a PA speaker, you know. Um, but they had the same sort of concept design. Um, I'm not sure if they were 12 or 15-inch bass drivers. I think maybe 15s, but in the larger boxes and larger horn, mid-range horn with a high range. And I think they were JBL, mostly JBL components. And now, you know, they switched to a different manufacturer. So they're using, now they've gone from 18-inch drivers down to 12-inch drivers that just have different manufacturer, different specification, excursion level on it, X Max, whatever. But oh yeah, the youth man, yeah, with his vibrating screen, he probably hasn't checked out the thing that they use behind the screen, which uses a specific to minimize possibility of screen vibration wobble. Mm. And you think, crikey, they got all this enormous cost to run a Limax, and yet, bloody yeah, what their electric bill must be extremely pricey, especially when they're especially with those flipping rectifiers for the flipping xenon lamps. That's not going to be cheap. Um, oh, and all the air cooling and water. Oh my goodness, not cheap. I'm surprised they stay in business. It's really, really, really expensive cost. And is it really worth it? They say you go into an IMAX cinema and all this, you hear all this bullshit. Now, welcome to the most advanced IMAX cinema, blah, blah, blah. That's not advanced. Look at the sound system. I don't care what comes out of those speakers at the end of that. It's not advanced. Might as well be Teletubbies. Might as well be fucking Teletubbies playing on that bloody screen. It's not advanced. Takes the piss, it does. How many speakers? Yeah, it's not advanced. It's way, way larger than another auditorium. You think, bloody hell, is this the amount of speaker? Is this the amount? Okay, yeah, this is not. Just You're just hearing hot spots. That's all you hear in a home theatre. Little hot spots sound coming from speakers, speaker to speaker, spread apart. Hot spots. When's the atmos going to get fucking real? When Dolby Lab's going to get real? Anyway, I'm getting more pissed off now. We're talking about this. So, yeah, I think Youth Man should go out and get himself some other test gear so he can analyze. Yeah, I was thinking of doing a video, but I was thinking, what's the fucking point? My screen is hardly going to vibrate, and I don't have the sub bass speakers. Well, I mean, can Youth Man do Baby Boom? Left channel 2 and 4 in his home theatre? Can that JBL home theatre that he went to? The most epic or Endgame or ever. Can that home theatre do Baby Boom channel 2 and 4? I looked at those speakers and no, it cannot do Star Wars. Can that Star Wars home theatre do Baby Boom channel 2 and 4? No, not a real Star Wars fan. Well, a lot of statics in the room, randomly all placed all over, and nothing that looks parallel. And so, yeah, it's going to be a rather scatty, tatty, high frequency mess when the sound's bouncing and reflecting around off those walls. It's going to create some very odd sort of things that's unnecessary to EQ. But yeah, that's $1 million billionaires, isn't it? Even that other one, I think, was it the 55 million? Is it 55 million? Home? Los Angeles, or is it Florida somewhere? I don't know where. That's got JBL synthesis. It's got obviously, because of the size of the room, it's got some well, I don't think JBL synthesis processor, but JBL professional cinema screen speakers, but only three speakers behind a home theater that's 55 million. You only got three speakers, but you can't do Baby Boom, can you? Oh, so you're not going to be good for Star Wars now for your snobby guests. Yeah. You can't recreate Baby Boom. Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to be a billionaire to have a home theatre. And it's not luxury. It is not luxury. It's just a pack of immaterial. It's just nothing more than an immaterial pack of electronics at the end of the day. Oh, oh, and what's that other guy with his home theatre? Bloody hell, with his Atmos. He's got one in a basement and one upstairs. I mean, why does he want two home theatres? Really? Huh? I don't get it. What's he gonna do? Put the next one in a closet that's with smaller speakers, but it's still Atmos, but it's just got very smaller size speakers. Seriously, probably would. You get a good bass response in that closet, mind you. Um, yeah, what's next? Don't get it. I was thinking of using the bedroom, but no, I'm not interested. I've got one. I don't need. I don't need a second one. Really? What, for views? I don't need it. Yeah, do something about the acoustics. Put some absorbent material around all those walls and ceiling, not just a few things in this first reflection and second bullshit. You're still going to get bloody sound reflections in that room. If you start walking around, then you're going to start hearing the sound reflections again. Get rid of it once and for all. Absorb, 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 Mr. Robinson. The only echo that you should hear is what is on the soundtrack. Otherwise, in those speakers, Atmos, ain't they supposed to create an immersive? Yeah. So if they're not really doing it, then it's really not an immersive format now, is it? Of course, if you want more speakers of our Atmos, if that's what you want to call those speakers, Atmos, just buy the same speaker again and make an array. So, whether you use the standard rubbish output on the processor, just make up those speakers from a single speaker to four speakers. Basically, you're just making it a bit more square area. So you go from a small area like that, and you just put a few more in the same place, and you just make it a little bit more larger in that same square area, and then do the same there, and then the same in the next, and the next, and the next. You're just basically covering uh, the ceiling with a little bit more area, but You won't get sound individually panning or softly or smoothly moving from one to the other to create an actual movement. You will hear a sort of sine wave sort of thing if you play a sine wave. So if you've got one speaker next to another and then you play a sine wave tone um, in the low frequencies or whatever, and you observe on the ears, on the test equipment, on the microphone, SPL, whatever, and you switch from one speaker to the other, you'll see a slight variance in difference in the signal because it's shifting from one three-dimensional space and shifting slightly over to the other three-dimensional space. But when you play all of them at the same time, you wouldn't notice until you play them individually. But when you play them all at the same time, and you'll get a think, oh, I've got a bit more increase in my atmos. Because most people buy those crappy speakers, like this guy, home theater guy. It's what's he got? I don't know. If you're going to keep buying crappy little speakers like that with low sensitivity, then you're going to get crap out of it. You know, there's plenty of other speakers you can go and buy, put in the ceiling, coaxial. Yeah, coaxials are obviously the way. And you could put in a multiple coaxials, boom, boom, boom. You could actually fit them. Well, it's not as easy as that because you're thinking about cutting hole into a ceiling, and you've got things up there called a joist, a ceiling joist that holds the ceiling up. And you start hacking out bits of timber, you're going to have a ceiling that's eventually going to fall down on top of you, which is not good. Um, so yeah, you got to locate where the joists are located and where you can put the speakers and how many you can put. And you just basically build an array, and then it just sounds a little bit more uniform, only with yeah. And it's a little bit more than that. It's a little bit more than that. How much bass response you get in there and what sort of bass response trade-off. You're going to get a trade-off, and some things are going to rattle and buzz, and then you got to secure that rattle and buzzing, and then how much can you really get from the speaker? Does it do in the frequency suite? Because if it's flush mounted, it should increase frequency response, a bit more uniform than a speaker, rather than a speaker that's attached to the ceiling, because it will still get a bass increase, but not as much as, and it's got to be all calculated and worked out. So yeah, it's not difficult. It's not difficult. Or actually, depending on how high the ceiling is, and you use boxes attached to the original ceiling, and then you put in little whatsits, what do you call them? For floating ceilings, suspended ceilings. You put in you put all this. That's all got to be cut, and then you put in, the pan, and that will smoothen some of the bass response as well. And you put absorbent material behind it because you're going to get some sound reflection going up there behind that material. But you get a better response. But you got to have a very high ceiling. It's no point doing it with a low level ceiling because you end up thinking claustrophobic unless you know what is above the ceiling and where the joists are located. And then you got to work out, how many holes you're going to be cutting into. Might as well just tear down the whole ceiling. And then you can see where the joists are located. And then you start from scratch. You don't just put plasterboard back. You just put, say, something that's a different material that's easy to cut, easy, clean, fits in place. It's all screwed up as well. Yeah, maybe MDF or plywood or something. But yeah, you might as well just rip the whole thing down, and then you'd be able to see where all the joists and everything is located. And then you just work it all out, and then just fit it all in, and then put a fabric over it so you don't see, put a fabric over it. Well, a little bit more than that, because you still want it absorbed, because it still be behind that fabric. It's still going to be like a bare wall, a bare surface, a bare ceiling, a bare surface, and you want it absorbed. Otherwise, you're just going to get back to this bloody echo thing in the room, sort of thing. And you don't want that echo. The only echo you should hear is what is on the soundtrack, or what is provided on the soundtrack. And usually it is on music, whereas sometimes you can't even understand the fucking the vocabulary of their fucking vocals. They're so muddled up and mushy. It's like, what the fuck are they saying? Does this compact disc come with subtitles? Oh no, that's disappointing. You can't understand what the fuck they're saying. You can hear they're singing la 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 la. Sounds like they got a vibrator stuffed up their pussy, and they're having an orgasm. I can't understand that fucking word they're saying. Oh. Yeah. Got to be able to understand, you know, got to see what is causing maybe a frequency on a speaker to sound a little bit harsh, because it's probably bouncing off something and returning back to that speaker instantaneously, because it moves very fast. And then you think, what the heck's going on? You got this weird thing that's going on. You think you're not too sure what frequency, you know. You, until when you measure it up close with the microphone, you see a different picture. You can't exactly hear it because you're still sat in the seat far away from it, but the microphone's up close and it can see. And then you can see on the RTA that the response is, yeah, crikey, bloody hell, it's all like that. And so if you're playing a soundtrack that's engineered and mixed to be, yeah, smoothly as possible, and then you got the playback of it, and it's like, oh crikey, it's no wonder I'm having difficulty hearing these frequencies up here, because this down here is way up here in the pink noise, when it should be a little bit flat. It should be, because that's how it looks on the amplifier. It looks smooth, and on the speaker it's completely all crooked. And you got to adjust that very carefully. But there's just like, again, there's just not enough EQ. Some you're going to use Q bandwidth, and you're going to be widening out that Q bandwidth, because you look at the seat, you see so many frequencies here that are pushing this range, the frequency range, pushing it up, and it's made up of individual. If you play sine wave tones, and you'll see it start there, and it goes up, up, up. Those sine waves should be flat. It's only the speaker that's cockeyed and making the sound cockeyed, not the amplifier. The amplifier is not much the tip of the ice. If an amplifier's got a roll off on the frequency response, that could easily be tackled with a high pass filter and put it flat, and then put a little bit more, put an elevation on it, providing, of course, the voice coil on the tweeter or the diaphragm of the HF horn can handle those high frequencies without too much in the way of harmonic frequencies or distortion, or the amplifier getting close to clipping because you're running out of headroom, because you need quite a bit of power to get up to the high frequencies. Not that it's really going to be paramount most of the bit, because most of it you're not going to hear, because our hearing rate, it's tricky science, but it's not impossible. It's doable. It just takes hours of work, if not days. It's not a simple thing that's done in a few hours with a bloody crappy auto EQ. Most people that have used crappy auto EQ, it fucks up everything else in the frequency response, because that auto doesn't know what crossover, electronic crossover or DSP crossover you're using. It doesn't know anything about the passive crossovers. There's a test I'm thinking about doing, which I haven't done yet, but I might get around to it one day. It would be a bit of an eye opener. If I could think of a way to simplify the idea. If I could think of a way to simplify the idea I want to do, or rather the test. Sorry, the test I might do. I'd only want to do it on the basics of I wonder if I could do it the basics on two speaker output. So I design a theatre mode that's just two speaker, and I could probably use the yeah, okay, keep thinking, because all we're talking about here is a daisy. Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer. Are you there, Dave? I'm getting sleepy, Dave. Yes, you are, Hal, you psychotic bloody computer. Yeah, Daisy, the let's see, two speakers out. Put the it's got to plug into. I'll take those out. Yeah. Put them in the mix. Put them in the audio mixer. Yeah. Yeah, I got it figured out. I just used the audio mixer. I could use the audio mixer on the whole, but bloody hell, I'm going to unpatch all the XLRs. I'd have to make sure I got them. I might have to make sure I got them all labelled. So all my XLRs on the processor end are not labelled. Nothing's labelled. So I start unplugging bloody thing. Oh, crikey, patching all that back, and I'll get the continuity all back to front. Oh, for crying out. Yeah, I think it'd be easier if I just used two outputs for stereo. I think I could do it with that. It should be doable. It should be doable to use. Because that would be easy to undo two XLRs on the back of the processor. I'll label those easily, and I'll be able to patch them back in after I'm finished with the project test. And I'll just patch it into one of the audio. I'll patch it into the very simple audio mixer I've got, and then the output goes to the goes back to the processor. Because hang on, is it an XLR or is it? No, it's a USB. I think that's a USB. That one. That's a USB microphone. I'm pretty sure it's a USB. I have to use a converter. I have to use a converter thing from the audio mixer going to the yeah, otherwise I won't get a signal. I have to use a converter to get. I'd have to use a converter thing to get a signal. But it should work. And I'll just run a loop. I'll just run continuous simultaneous simulation loops on the and see what the frequency sweeps all look like. They should theoretically overlay, but there might be some variance difference in some part of it, and that might be a computer software issue, or it might be a Room EQ Wizard issue, but it'd be minor. It'd be something that nothing really much to particularly bother about. Unless you're plotting a course on a spaceship to be in a specific direction, you have to be in there. Otherwise, you'll be off course by many degrees. Yeah, that's easy to do. Do it on 2-channel, then I don't have to undo all those bloody XLRs. Otherwise, I could do up to 24 channels, patch it into the other audio mixer, and go through literally everything on that and see what the picture looks like. Hmm. Because it should all be transparent. How many hours have I coming up to? What was it? 3 hours? I can't hardly see. 3 hours. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I could do that. I could do that. When am I going to do that? Oh, when I feel okay. Okay, so I've already done it up in my head, so yeah, and I expect to see certain result that should be predictable, but it might be variance. There might be some strange variance. That would be to see. That'd be to see. Yeah, you look at the second hand on a clock, whether it goes tick, 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 or whether it goes linearly smooth, moves slowly, rather than a tick, 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 tick. You see it slowly, linearly moving. Because you see the hours, the minute hour hands moving linearly, very slowly. They're not going click, click, click. They're just moving very slowly. So the second light is like going around, a circle. That's not. You look at all these home fit. I look at these bloody Trinovs and their diagrams and everything. Sometimes is a circle and a room or a square, and everything's laid out. And that's bullshit. You can set the speakers up like that in a very large room if you want. I don't think it's going to be sounding very good because you're going to be losing a lot of bass response on some of those speakers where they're placed and they're not coupled in into a barrier wall, and they're gonna, you got to trade off some of the bass. Um, I don't know. That is some sort of marketing bullshit. A circle or a sphere. It's usually a hemisphere because because we got a ground plane surface, unless of course that sphere, and then it is used in outer space, because it wouldn't be a hemisphere, it would be a sphere. It's everywhere, completely everywhere. No up, no down, no side to side, no back to front, no inside out. It's complete weightless. Um, be interesting. You put some objects in space with a little light on it, and the light only points in one direction. And then you purposely spin the object so it starts rolling and rotating. And so one moment you'll see the light on, and then one moment you'll see the light off, on, off, on, off. You'll see this flicker because the speed it's rotating. Well, the slower you give it a push and a turn, and it's going to turn slow. The quicker, and it'll just keep on doing that endlessly. Nothing there to stop it. It'll just keep doing that. Unless it gets near to a gravity or something, and then gets pulled, and then it will start changing. Anyway, see the light going on, off, on, off, on, off. But you wouldn't have a sound, so you see a light going on, off, on, off. Until the battery wears out. um, hmm. Yeah. Yeah, stereo, 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 stereo. Water, water movement, ocean waves, jaws. Gonna need a bigger, bigger blow surround. So if one little speaker, two little stereo. So a stereo, stereo, stereo is that connected. So you got speaker, 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 speaker. Crikey, that's a lot of speakers. Depends on how big the speaker, how big the room is, and how many speakers, and how many. Oh gosh! Because you look at the thing itself, water waves, and try and get a mathematical formula. It's very difficult because the wave ripples could be some very small, some very wide. I think I'm going a little bit too literal. I think really what it is. I know atmos is crap, and I think I'm just going a little bit too literal here. Because all this is, at the end of the day, to me, it's just I'm listening to nothing more than a fabricated sound to give some sort of close proximity, and that is it. That is all sadly it can do. can't make real rocket sounds and all that. It's like, oh, it's wow. It's better than say a sound bar. But sound bar versus actual JBL motion picture loudspeaker speakers, no comparison. The sound bar is just a joke. It might have been impressive in use if it were used back in the 1920s, but no, it didn't have that sort of range back then. It was very, very limited because of the horns and the horns were high efficient but low powered at the time, and very poor frequency response. Well, they're only starting at the they're only starting until they can improve the frequency range a bit more further higher up. I think the thing that goes for the other thing for the speakers, I think they didn't have generated magnetic fields back then. I think they were done with some electric to generate some sort of magnetic field of a sort. Until that was decades later, and they generate magnetic field for speakers. And so, yeah, in some ways, some things have changed. Some things have got a little bit smaller, a little bit more lightweight. Hmm. Otherwise, are you really listening to it, or do you just hear it? And if you just hear it and you think that's okay, then that's all it's ever going to be to someone. You just hear it. You're not really listening out there for detail, and you don't really deserve a hi-fi system because you're not going to really be that much into it. It'd be just something there you could just turn up and it's loud, but when it breaks because you were not aware of, but you're aware of, you drive a car, and if you rev those RPMs up into the red, you're going to knacker your car engine. So you got to be, and it's the same with other things that you're aware of. But most hi-fis and all that, they don't have something there. I think not even standalone, cheap, crappy hi-fis that you go and buy from Richer Sounds or anything. I don't think any of that equipment has audio limiters that you can set so you can prevent the system being go any louder. So it won't damage the amplifier, it won't damage the speakers. It'll be plenty enough loud, and if some guest try to go in and turn it up, it just won't go any more higher because you set the threshold level for the audio limiter and it won't go any higher. Thus protect your speakers, your system from idiotic guests. Because it's all happened in the past. I think people wreck their systems because it's gone beyond the threshold level, the tolerance levels of the equipment, and it's damaged. And then anything I have got tolerance levels to, even masturbating has got tolerance levels. If you don't use the lubrication, you're going to be going doctor. Oh dear. Oh shit! I almost sounded like Woody Woodpecker there. It was, is that Woody Woodpecker? Oh my goodness! Oh boy! Everything's got Anyway, over and out, and I'll be back. with more of the same. Why do I want to come back with more of the same? I'm sick and fucking tired of doing these videos. More of the same. The more things change, the more they remain the same. I need to rant like these videos. Yeah, like I need to breathe.